In most sports, people regularly trick, bungle, and sometimes even cheat in the most daring ways. In this video, we present 8 athletes whose spectacular cheating schemes have been mercilessly exposed. Among other things, it's about footballers who are said to have transferred millions, poker stars with lazy tricks, and Olympic athletes who lied their way into medals. It's going to be extremely exciting and entertaining, so stay tuned here at Wonderlane. Oh, and don't forget to write us in the comments if you have ever cheated in sports. We are curious. On number 8, we start directly with what is probably one of the biggest scandals which the largest sporting event in the world has ever seen. The Olympic Games. Although there are always minor discussions during the Games due to the countless individual tournaments, what happened in London in 2012 was for many hard to beat in terms of audacity and unsportsmanship. It was the Olympic badminton tournament, in which the Chinese women's team in particular, but also the South Korean and Indonesian teams, got carried away with an extremely ingenious trick. They allegedly lost their matches on purpose. But while you may think that they did this for manipulation reasons in order to be eliminated from the tournament early for dubious reasons, you are mistaken. In reality, the Chinese women wanted to play in higher rounds against supposedly easier opponents. After they had already qualified for the main round during the current group phase, and it slowly became clear that they would have to face tough opponents there, they preferred to play badly in the remaining group matches so that they would not have to play against the favorites with a lower ranking. However, their sudden drop in performance did not remain unnoticed, which led to an investigation against the Chinese team, and as a result, some players were banned from the Olympics forever. Next up, we come to an athlete who is not physically active in the direct sense, but is involved in a multi-million-dollar business that is seen by most as a tough mental sport. It's about the American poker star Mike Postle and an alleged fraud that has kept the poker scene on tenterhooks since 2019. Mike Postle, who for a long time was considered a very talented amateur player, but had long skipped the jump to the pros, has since then namely had to face accusations that he had cheated for months in major television tournaments. In fact, it was in 2018 that Postle began participating in live tournaments where he sat at the table primarily with real pros. While at first most thought he would only be eliminated early, he proved everyone wrong and played every opponent to the wall for months, no matter how good and renowned they were. It almost seemed as if Postle was clairvoyant, throwing away his cards whenever someone else had better ones. Conversely, he could always win his rounds when he actually had the best hand, so he hardly ever had to bluff riskily. However, when Postle eventually entered a tournament where there were no cameras and therefore no one on the outside could see the cards of any of the players, he went down without mercy. Many therefore suspected that Postle was not any good at poker at all, but was working with accomplices who viewed the TV images and thus provided him with information about his opponent's hands. Although these accusations have not been proven yet, until recently Postle was in a lawsuit in which other poker stars accused him of cheating in the millions. As already mentioned, no evidence has been found yet, but since Postle has meanwhile paused his career and no lawyer wants to defend him anymore, it can be assumed that some things were indeed not above board. On number 6, we continue with a fraud that can hardly be surpassed in terms of baseness and dishonor. It's about the 2000 Paralympics in Sydney and the Spanish basketball team that ended up winning the gold medal. Throughout the tournament, the Spanish team outplayed every opponent with a breathtaking style of play and ultimately became the undisputed champions among basketball players with intellectual disabilities. However, it seemed extremely dubious to some observers that many players were playing at such a high level that they could possibly even compete with the pros. Moreover, some TV viewers even recognized some of the players, which in the end led to probably the biggest fraud in the history of the Paralympics. 80% of the Spanish players were not mentally impaired at all, but only pretended to be in order to win the tournament. It even turned out that these players were instructed by their coach to play a little slower than usual so that the cheating would not be discovered.
We were encouraged to pretend to be stupid.
However, since this incident was not only against good manners, but furthermore deprived all opponents of the chance to compete fairly, Spain was subsequently disqualified and all non-restricted players had to return their medals. In addition, the Spanish Basketball Federation was fined heavily and had to pay back all the state subsidies it had received in preparation for the tournament. For number 5, we stay with the Olympics, but we go back to 1984 and the Games in Los Angeles. In this edition, there was a curious cheating attempt, which still today is the subject of the most breathtaking stories. It involves the Puerto Rican track and field athlete Madeline DeJesus, who represented her country in the long jump in the 4x400 meter relay. When DeJesus' foot came up wrong in one of the early long jump rounds, she injured herself so badly that she could not continue. Instead of giving up, she came up with a method that subsequently went around the world. Madeline DeJesus was accompanied during the games by her twin sister Margaret, who looked almost identical. So when Madeline got injured, Margaret quickly changed in the catacombs of the stadium and replaced her sister as if nothing ever happened. This cheating went undetected for a few rounds, but as Puerto Rico got closer and closer to the final round, their own coach became suspicious and eventually found out that the twins had cheated. As a consequence, he withdrew the participation of the entire team, and the twins were banned for life from the Olympic Games. Next up, we come to an ex-athlete who is no longer an active athlete, but who, according to some media reports, is said to have been involved in a major cheating scandal. We're talking about a man who is seen by many as the greatest German footballer of all time, and who was able to achieve fabulous success both as a player and as a coach. Franz Beckbauer, also known as the Emperor. In addition to his sporting success, Beckbauer was also active for a long time as a functionary, and above all, as an ambassador for the German Soccer Association, making him one of the most important figures in German soccer. In this way, he is said to have played a major role in ensuring that the World Cup in 2006 was held in Germany, and that Germany gained an extremely positive image in the world in this way. However, many years later it emerged that numerous FIFA officials and managers had allegedly influenced the awarding of the World Cup to Germany by paying bribes. Allegedly, one of these people was Franz Beckbauer, who, according to some reports, was involved in the illegal payments of several million Swiss francs that ultimately led to the World Cup being held in Germany. Since these allegations became public, Beckbauer has faced regular court proceedings and now lives in almost complete seclusion and no longer appears in public. What exactly is really true about these allegations remains open, unlike the fact that Beckbauer remains one of the most important people in German soccer history. Next, we come to a fraud that, although not directly carried out by athletes, had a massive impact on some of the best footballers of the time. We are talking about the scandal that is still known today mainly as calciopoli, and that completely shook Italian soccer in 2006. In that year, it came to light that the general director of Juventus Torino, Luciano Moggi, had manipulated the distribution of referees to specific Series A matches on a grand scale. For example, he made sure that referees handed out so many yellow cards in individual matches that the top players were suspended in later matches against Juventus. He also gave referees Rolex watches and Ferraris to buy their goodwill. This scandal was exposed after some time through overheard phone calls, which led to Moggi being banned for life as a soccer official. The consequence for Juventus Torino has been much worse. The top team, which had just won the championship again and had freshly crowned Italian world champions such as Fabio Cannavaro in its ranks, was punished with forced regulations to the second division and extremely high fines. On number 2, we come to a cheating case that shows you that you should think twice if you want to cheat in sports, because it often happens that a promising career vanishes into thin air in a very short time after someone has cheated only once. This is exactly what happened to Russian track and field athlete Anna Almonova when she was convicted of doping in 2010. Until then, Almonova was considered perhaps the most promising runner on the 1,500 meters worldwide and could already celebrate numerous national successes in her young career, as well as the European Indoor Championships in 2009. But when it came out that she had been doping regularly, she was not only stripped of all her previous titles, she was also banned by the World Athletics Federation for 3 months. Although she was allowed to compete again after that, to this day she has still not been able to regain her old form and was eventually lost in irrelevance. At the end of this video, we will show you a cheat that should never have happened, because so many cameras are used in this sport that mistakes can actually be ruled out. It's about darts, and probably the best player this sport has ever seen, Phil the Power Taylor. In 2013, nevertheless, he let himself be carried away to a small cheat at a tournament, which one had not expected from him in such a way. To finish a so-called leg of 501 points, Taylor only had to hit the field of double 12. However, he threw just past it. Although the referee was standing right next to the disc and should have seen Taylor miss the square, he called Taylor the winner of the leg. Normally, at this point, darts players inform the ref that he has made a mistake, but Taylor accepted the gift in this case and acted as if nothing had happened. While there are certainly more scandalous cases of cheating than this, for a short time Taylor lost some sympathy because of this incident. And that's it for our video, and 8 athletes who were caught cheating in a blatant way. Write us in the comments which story you found the most shocking. Otherwise, like this video if you enjoyed, subscribe to our channel for more, and see you next time here at Wonderlane.